This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV, the
News Free Dixie.
News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
We All Be is on to have on the one and only Dr. William Pepper, who is the author of An Act of State and also his recent book, The Plot to Kill King. Very deep into the King research, assassination legacy. How are you doing today, sir?
Fine, thank you, Ron.
It's an honor to have you on here. And also, I just want to do a quick thing. You have unique relationships with both Dr. King and also James Earl Ray, correct?
I was close to Dr. King the last year of his life, and I was James Earl Ray's lawyer for the last 10 years of his life.
And what is not greatly publicized is the fact that there was a civil trial in Memphis back in December of '99. There was a verdict that said that the government was complicit in the assassination of Dr. King, and you actually helped with that case along with the King family. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I represented the King's family as their attorney for that in that case.
So, basically what happened was that the government was found guilty of killing Dr. King, and there were certain elements in the government that were more prominent in the killing, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And this would be the intelligence agency, in particular the FBI?
Well, it was a multi-organizational, multi-entity operation. The military were involved in a backup role. The key government agency involved in the planning of the assassination was the FBI, and they worked with local Dixie Mafia and organized crime figures, as well as officials in the city of Memphis, to carry out the assassination. Hoover sent Clyde Tolson, his number two, in continually to Memphis and to work with the Dixie Mafia, Adkins family, Russell Adkins family, and Adkins, of course, was close to Carlos Marcello, who had approved the operation.
So it also was brought up too, as far as I learned from just reading your book, An Act of State, and the other material, was the fact that the guy who controlled the Memphis Fire, the police department, was Frank Holloman. He used to be J. Edgar Hoover's number 3 man in the FBI. Is that correct?
Yeah, Holloman was a former FBI agent who worked in Hoover's office for a number of years, and he became director of police and fire in Memphis, and was very instrumental in organizing things on the ground for the assassination. Pretty much was in the front position in terms of the carrying out of the assassination.
And I know people said, go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Dr. Pepper.
I'm sorry?
I thought I was interrupting you when you was trying to finish your thought.
Yeah, no, that's Holloman. Holloman was a key operator in the entire operation. And
also, I was reading, I know what it used to be, the story is that it was a Memphis police officer that pulled the trigger.
Yes, that's right. That's what has emerged over the years from the evidence that a Memphis police officer was the person who actually shot the rifle from the bushes behind Jim's grill, and hit Martin in the side of the head and brought him down. But Martin was not killed by that gunshot wound. I go into detail in The Plot to Kill King, and the final book on the case, how he actually was killed.
Yeah, I know people. Yeah,
in the hospital.
Yeah, cause I know that's the big thing that came out last summer. I know people was talking about that last summer in social media and on internet, that he was not killed at Bockening, but he was actually killed at St. Joseph's Hospital by the chief surgeon, smothered to death.
Chief of neurosurgery. That's right.
Yeah,
Dr. Breen Bland, who was also the family doctor for the Atkins family.
And also that the police officer who did it, I know it used to be like Earl Clark, but that's not the police officer, it's somebody else.
No, Earl Clark was back in the bushes as a spotter,
Okay.
but the actual shooter was probably the best shot on the Memphis police force at the time. And in my view, in my opinion, on the basis of everything that we have learned, he was the one that pulled the trigger and practiced all day with the special rifle that was used before going down to take up his position in the bushes with Earl Clark and Lloyd Jowers.
Wow. Hey, this guy is still around. I know you in the book you said you had lunch with him.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't eat, but I.
Okay.
I did have lunch with him. He is definitely around and well and still surviving. Yes.
Wow. I know in the Active State, I have a chance to read your book, The Plot to Kill You, but I read in Active State that you were trying to acquire some film footage of the actual assassination. You believe they still exist or ever existed?
Oh, it definitely exists. There's one set that is buried in the Pentagon because it was sent back to Colonel John Downey, who was the intelligence officer at the Pentagon who was responsible for organizing the filming. There were two photographers on the roof of the fire station, and they did film everything, including everyone that was down in and around the balcony and the shooter and that team in the bushes. Yes. So there's one a copy of those photographs with the Pentagon, and I believe there was a second. We tried to negotiate with one of the photographers for the second set that we were unsuccessful because my colleague was trailed to the Miami airport from the Miami airport for the meeting with him, and it spooked the other guy. So we never got those photographs.
So the shot did.
But they were interviewed, and both photographers were interviewed, and they indicated that they existed, and that the shooter that appeared in the photograph lowering his rifle was not James Earl Ray. Wow.
So the shot did come from the bushes. It didn't come from the fire station.
It came from the bushes.
Okay. Yeah. And what's interesting, I know just reading your book that they actually cut down the bushes the next day. The Memphis City government, or in particular, I guess the fire department,
public works department cut down the bushes and effectively destroyed the crime scene the next day.
So it would be safe to say that the local Memphis government was very heavily involved at the mayor's office in the assassination.
Yes, all the way up and all the way down. Yes.
Wow. And I also want to ask you about, have you ever had a chance to interact with Morrell McCullough, the undercover Memphis invader who was CIA or Memphis police at the time?
He was an undercover Memphis police officer at the time. He was working with military intelligence, and he had infiltrated the invaders, and was an informant and played a key role in the work up to the assassination. We've never been able to have an interview with him. No.
Yeah, it's interesting because I came back from the Selma 50th anniversary, and I actually found his number in the white pages. It was a South Carolina number, and I talked to him very briefly, and I recorded it, and I could share it with you. And basically, I confirmed that he was the Morrell McCullough in Memphis at the time of King's assassination. When I asked him was he involved with the CIA, he didn't want to do any. He doesn't do any interviews. So I thought that was very interesting that his number was listed in the white pages of all things. And
that is interesting. That is interesting. He went from the Memphis Police Department into the agency and worked for the CIA, I guess, for a number of years before he retired.
That's crazy, man. It's like, so dealing with all this stuff, I know that also that you were involved with Sirhan, the alleged assassin of RFK. Do you see any similarities between the two assassinations with MLK and RFK, or James Earl Ray and Sirhan?
Well, I became involved with the Sirhan case when family asked me to look at evidence, and it was very clear to me that Sirhan was a patsy, that he was set up, and that that Bobby Kennedy was hit with 4 bullets at powder burn range from the rear. Sirhan was always 5-6 feet in front of him, and our Harvard psychologist who spent 70 hours with him came away convinced that he had been programmed to be a distraction patsy. And so I have represented Sirhan since 2007. We have tried to get an evidentiary hearing for him, and we have failed all the way up through the Supreme Court. But we have taken the case now to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. Since we've exhausted our domestic remedies, we're trying to get a hearing with the IACHR, and I don't know that we'll be successful, but we are nevertheless trying.
With the fatal shot been proven that it came from the back, and he was always in the front of RFK?
Oh yeah. He was always in the front, and the shots came they were powder burn range. The gun was pressed right up against Bob's body.
And he could only recall that night through hypnosis.
Well, it's a combination. The mind control that they use is very sophisticated. It's a combination of chemicals and hypnosis. Sirhan was in a clinic for about 2 weeks where they worked on him.
And it was also, man, I heard you said that Dr. King was supposed to be assassinated in Los Angeles, but they already had that slot filled for RFK. That's correct?
Yeah, that was my view. It was very strange. They kept James and the 2 military people, backup people, in Los Angeles for a long time, and then all of a sudden they moved James and the shooters from Los Angeles into the South. So they changed the place of assassination. It was initially to have been Los Angeles. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to take it back to the MLK thing. I think it's very fascinating with the players locally. I just want to get your take on. It came out once again that Jesse Jackson might have had some involvement in the King assassination. That he was a CIA operative from last summer. I guess based on what you came out in your book, what is your take on Jesse Jackson's involvement in the King assassination?
Well, he was regrettably and sadly. He was a collaborator. He was receiving money from Hoover through Tolson and through Atkins. The money was sent in from Washington, and he was informing and was working with those forces. And at the end of the day, it was his job to change the room from 202 to 306. 202, as you know, was a secluded room in the ground floor, and they had to have Martin up on the balcony room where he was a clear target. So that room was changed to room 306.
And was he the one they got the Memphis Invaders to leave their room? Is that true?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Was he the one who made the Memphis Invaders leave the hotel, Lorraine? That they had a room at first, but they was forced to leave at the last moment?
Yes, the invaders were asked to leave about 15, 20 minutes before the assassination. And that was, he was the one allegedly who gave the instructions to put them out because it was like 5:45 and they were being asked to pay their room bill, and that was not the deal. They were working with Martin on planning the march. And then they were just told they had to leave, and when they asked who gave that instructions, they said Reverend Jackson.
Wow, because they were actually armed at the time, correct? They were armed, and they could have presented a problem?
Yes, they were armed, and they were working closely with Dr. King.
Yeah, I also want to ask you about Billy Cowles, because I know y'all cross-examined him back in 99, and he failed the cross-examination, according to your book, Enact the State, and he passed away recently last year. What was your take on Billy Cowles' involvement?
he was a total collaborator involved in the assassination. Martin was to, and the group would have a dinner at his a barbecue dinner at his house that night, and they were getting ready to go there. And it was Kyle's job to get him out of the room around 6 o'clock, and he knocked on the door to hurry him along to get him out. And in all of his career, Kyle's maintained that he was in the room with Martin King for the last half hour of his life, and he built a reputation for himself by saying that he had been in the room and gave a false story about that. All he did was knock on the door. Door was open for a few seconds even, and then it was closed, and he walked down the balcony, the balcony, put his hands on the railing and just waited. Martin came out then around 6 o'clock, and Kyles didn't come to see him or approach him, just stayed that far away from him. He was there. It was his job to get him out of the room, and he lied about having been in the room and all of that. So that was par for the course. That's what he did. He was paid as well.
I mean, I know that like he turned that what you said a lie into like an Oscar nominated documentary, Witness Room 306, which is fascinating. What about Ernest Withers, the famed civil rights photographer? What's your take on him?
Well, Withers was a photographer who scooped up some of Martin's blood from the balcony, and I think Ernest's main role was to make money in any way he could, and I think that's what he was about.
So you don't think anything he did really undermined the movement of Martin Luther King's, progress in that movement?
I don't know a great deal about that.
But it was true with Jesse Jackson, getting back to him, because he was 26 at the time. It was true that he was able to leave Memphis that night at the airport.
Yes, that was always deemed to be strange, that somehow he was facilitated out of the city and was able to appear on I guess it was the Today Show the next morning in Chicago, and wearing a bloody shirt that he supposedly held while he cuddled Dr. King. In actual fact, he appears to have just put his hands in the blood and wiped them on the shirt so that he could have a bloody shirt to show.
And I was going to ask you this because a couple of years ago, I had the honor of hearing Reverend Albert Simpson, who was the housing director for the SCLC under Dr. King at the time. And I got this on video. He spoke at the museum when he was honored. He said back in August of 1966 that Dr. King called a meeting with his top lieutenants at the SCLC. He told them there was a black FBI agent from California back in January of 66 that told him that he was going to be assassinated by the government soon. Have you ever heard of that story?
No. But I'm sure there were many stories like that. Martin King knew he was under constant threat.
Did he ever express that to you that last year of his life?
Did what? I'm sorry?
Did he ever express those thoughts to you his last year of his life?
He didn't dwell on it, but, it was clear that he was aware that they were going to try to kill him.
Okay, but do you think, I might understand, like, with people, I know I saw a JFK assassination special, and Walter Pontroy, who was friends with Dr. King, said when they was watching the funeral procession of JFK, he told them allegedly that if they could do that to a president, he won't make it to 40. And he died at 39. So, I guess he had a feeling that he might have got killed in D.C. because people thought it was going to happen in D.C., according to some of his people. Was that the feeling, you think?
Well, I think he thought he was at risk wherever he went. Mm-hmm. And he had no illusions that they could kill him at any time. And, this one of my sadnesses, of course, in my more depressive moments is that I was the one that convinced him to oppose the war. That's how I met him when I came back from Vietnam. He read my article in Ramparts and decided to meet with me and talk about the war, and I convinced him he had to oppose it, which he did in his Riverside speech on April 4, 1967.
Wow. And then he was killed April 4th, 1968.
Yeah, 1 year to the day. Right.
So you feel like you feel this guilt is why you were so involved in trying to trying to find out who did it. You feel guilty about the death of King.
Well, it's part of the motivation. As I got more involved and became convinced that Ray was innocent, we became a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That lasted over 40 years.
So how you come to the conclusion that James Earl Ray did not do it, or he was innocent of this?
It took me 10 years after meeting James for the first time to be convinced that we knew he didn't do it. We knew he wasn't the shooter early on, but I wasn't going to represent him until I was convinced that he was not a knowing participant. And that's what happened.
Wow. I was going to ask you this as well, because I know that they've been hesitant to release the King assassination files. And my understanding that they were going to release the JFK assassination files supposedly in October of this year. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, they're supposed to be released at some point, but I don't have any confidence that the government will ever release any of the documentation that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not what they do.
Well, what I actually did is getting back to the King assassination, in particular, some of his inner circle. What is your take on Ambassador Andrew Young? Because I know at first, I read the active state that he was supposed to be targeted for assassination.
Yes, he was also to have been shot by the backup army shooters. There was one who was assigned to shoot Andrew Young, and when I showed that information to Andrew, he was never aware of that. But I think they regarded Andrew as someone who was also a threat because he had a large following in the Northeast and among the liberal community, and so they just thought they might as well take him out as well.
Do you ever get a chance to talk to the guy, I guess, Jim Harrison or James Harrison of the SCLC?
No, but he was pretty clearly an informant on the inside who was providing information.
And what was his role at the SCLC?
I believe he was a treasurer working under Abernathy. At the time, I think he had financial obligation to managing the books or things of that sort. But he knew everything that was going on, and so he was able to be an ideal informant.
Okay, as we approach the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King, and I'm sure you visited the National Civil Rights Museum recently or lately?
Have I done what? I'm sorry.
Visited the site of Dr. King's assassination, crucifixion, the Civil Rights Museum. Have you visited that recently?
Not recently, no.
Well, I mean, they still sticking to that story of the one-man gun theory. And you did all this work, all this pioneering work and research and uncovering what is the truth about behind the assassination. What are your thoughts as we head into the 50th anniversary? And a lot of us still think that James Earl Ray acted alone when he actually did it.
Well, that's been the official government line forever. That's the official story. The lone assassin. That James Earl Ray did it, and it's distortion, it's corruption of the truth, and they perpetuate it. And the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis should, at some point in time, begin to tell the truth about this, and perhaps we're getting closer to that day. I would hope we are, anyway. At least my last book, The Plot to Kill King, is on sale in the Civil Rights Museum. They blocked my books for a number of years from being sold there.
Wow.
But now apparently they're selling them. And that's at least a good sign, I think.
I think somebody should invite you to come back to speak for the 50th.
They've talked about that, and I may come back there in autumn to speak to them. That's a possibility, yes.
I hope you do. I mean, I look forward to meeting you on the battlefield, because the past is never past, like William Faulkner said so many years ago. To paraphrase him.
Okay.
Yeah, I
look forward to meeting you, Ron.
Yeah, I want to ask you this as well with the passing of we lost Mark Lane last year in Charlottesville, And now we just recently lost Dick Gregory, and both of you guys were pioneers in researching the assassinations of JFK and MLK. I just want to get your thoughts on their passing, or what you thought about their work, or whatever, their legacy.
Well, I think I had a lot of respect both for Mark Lane and Dick Gregory, very close to Dick at one point in time. And, I think Dick was a very, very solid, straightforward, moral person, and he contributed a lot to our society. Mark did a lot of good work on the JFK case, and he raised questions and issues that have never been resolved. And so I think his book, Rush to Judgment, was an excellent account of the information and the evidence that was available at that time to him.
And also, one thing that bothered me about the King assassination was James Earl Ray was the fact that how can a guy escape a federal penitentiary, be on the run for almost 2.5 years, and be found in overseas with a passport? How does it happen if he acted alone?
Well, James's escape, I cover the details of the escape in the Plot to Kill King. James's escape was arranged. The Warden Swenson, was paid $25,000. Tolson carried the money in from Hoover, gave it to Atkins, who took it to the prison. I know this because his son rode with him, and his son became a witness for me. I put him under oath. They went to the prison. They gave the warden $25,000. He arranged the escape. James had been profiled as an ideal patsy, and so they arranged. James never knew his escape was arranged. He just was happy to take advantage of an opportunity that arose.
And also, people got to understand, James Ray never stood a trial, right? He never had a trial.
Well, James was convinced to cop a plea. If Arthur Haynes continued to represent him, there would have been a trial. He would have gone to trial, but he was conned into taking on Percy Foreman as his lawyer and releasing Haynes, and that was his mistake. He never had it. He never had the trial. No.
And who was Percy Foreman? People understand what type of person was he?
Percy Foreman was one of the leading criminal lawyers in America at the time, and he was brought on for the purpose of getting James to cop the plea and not have an evidentiary opportunity at a trial. So that's what happened.
Yeah, I know you got a tight schedule. I just want to get how much time do you have?
Oh no, I've got to break very quickly now because I'm running late on something.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you. We can do it again, and maybe when I come to Memphis, we can do a longer one.
I appreciate that. But I want to ask you one more thing about so were the sanitation workers actually killed to bring King here? That's the question I wanted to ask you.
Sanitation workers strike was the main reason that Dr. King came into Memphis. Excuse me. This visit was accelerated by the death of two sanitation workers in the back of a garbage truck. That just made it much more dramatic and much more urgent to get King into Memphis. They used that strike to get him in. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Pepper, so much for all the work you have done and continue to do. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. We look forward to meeting you and having you back on again.
That'll be fine. You're going to air this on your station, are you?
Yes, sir. I'll send you the link. Yes, sir.
Okay. Nice to talk to you, Ron. We'll see you again.
All right, Dr. Pepper. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.